Hearing our ghosts, walking the threshold from grief into hope. My mother and I often meet in the kitchen. It's a central room in this old farmhouse, and as she started helping me care for my father, her ex-husband of 40 years with a very bitter past, the kitchen has become the place where we meet for rapid-fire therapy sessions. When the ground has been scooped out beneath you, as it was for us when we learned that we had to move from our farm, our business, our home, there isn't time for long periods of exposition, reverie, and pondering. We're learning how to act fast. Your grandfather came to me this morning, Mom said, as she rearranged bags in the freezer so the loosely sealed door would close. What did he say? I asked. I'm serious, Mom said. Don't laugh at me. I'm serious too. I believe you, I said. And don't we all, at the deep heart of it, just want someone to say they believe us? That morning, my grandfather's ghost visited my mother, and he told her that we were moving in the right direction as we planned to purchase a new farm. He told her that he was pleased with what we were doing, to remember the land, and to keep it intact. Moving money around woke him up, Mom said. We don't talk about how the seed money for the new farm came from her inheritance, how she was skipped over and I was put in her place. When a ship is sinking, there's no time to argue over the fit of the life jackets. You grab the nearest thing that floats and you hold on tight. And somewhere along the way, grief turns to hope. Is he proud of me, I ask, now that Mom has become a bridge between the living and the dead? I think he is, she says, and goes back to tricking the freezer. Before moving on to the land Bramblewood has called home for 20 years, the land we're now uprooting from, my grandfather and I were building a farm together. He was a poor mill worker who went off to World War II and came back with a GI Bill and a vision. He built a TV repair shop into one of the largest communications companies in the Southeast. He was the first to sell pagers in our area, and one day he answered a call on a prototype Motorola flip phone in the middle of a busy restaurant. Everyone was appalled that he'd speak on the phone in public. I fussed at him and told him to take the call outside. When we first started talking about building a barn, I'd just merged my freelance work at other farms into a central hub at an old place I'd recently dubbed Bramblewood Stables. We spent long afternoons drinking coffee in the tack room, driving around to look at land for sale, and we just found a builder when he became sick and soon after passed away. He never saw the land where Bramblewood flourished, the land that we've leased for so long. Even before my mother heard his words, I knew my grandfather would want me to have the certainty of Bramblewood continuing on land that we owned, land we could preserve and keep green in a rapidly expanding city. You know how when you've suffered a loss, waking up is the hardest? That moment when you shift from sleep to waking, and for a second you've forgotten what has happened? I was doing that, I still do, every day as we work tirelessly toward securing a new farm. One morning, as the jolts of cortisol flooded my body, something stopped me. I breathed. I noticed the difference between the balance in my body as I surfaced from sleep and the mental battering that came when I was fully awake. I realized I had a choice. Sinking back into that sense of ease, of allowing, I leaned into the contrasts, resting and on guard, at peace and terrified, grounded and afloat, capable or broken. When I was relaxed, I felt my grandfather's presence, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was never alone. We're never alone. As we prepare for our silent auction ahead of the benefit and farewell for Bramblewood, no one has been more supportive than Shawn Vaughn. Her granddaughter has ridden, volunteered, and worked at the farm most of her life. Kids like her fuel our next steps as we work to secure a forever home. Riding stables are havens where kids can grow up without screens, without constant drama, most of the time, learning skills that carry them through life. Farms demand that we dig deep and cement our core ethics. I didn't know Shawn well before we lost our lease, but she has become one of those angels unawares my mother keeps talking about, the kin who arrive just when we need them, a phrase collected from a passage in Hebrews that says, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." Shawn and her husband stopped by this week to drop off gift baskets for the auction. We stood not too far from the place where my mother delivered the message from my grandfather, and Shawn also began her own story with a caveat, like hearing the nudges of our ancestors is a problem. "You're going to think I'm crazy, but..." Shawn's grandfather was her rock, her world, and her very favorite person. When he passed, she felt adrift. Her grandfather was someone who believed in the land, understanding what wealth it was. "He loved the land and said it would provide for you all your life," she said. After her grandfather's passing, Shawn experienced waves of immense grief. As time went on, she still missed him dearly, but her connection with him drifted into life. Until she heard that we were losing the farm. With that news, her grandfather's voice came back to life. She felt him close and listened to his urges to do everything in her power to help us find, preserve, and build a way forward for this farm, to keep our work going. And Shawn marched out with a mission. She has gathered gift cards from restaurants, written dozens of letters to news outlets and community leaders, spreading our story far and wide on shares on social media and personal testaments to why farms matter in so many people's lives. As she told our story in the return line at a store, a man behind her handed her the items that he had planned to exchange and told her to donate it to the silent auction. So when I talk about listening to our urges, to the nudges, to the voices of beloved mentors and protectors long gone, this is what I mean by turning our grief into hope, transforming our sadness into action. The love of what we thought was lost will help you take a single step forward and another one after that and another until you're striding forward confidently towards the places you were meant to be all along. It's hard to see and feel movement when we're in the dark night of our soul. But like the stars behind the night sky, there are new worlds waiting for us behind our grief. If you'd like to support Bramblewood Stables in our move to a new forever home, keep up with the updates and share our story so others understand the pressing threat of land loss on the future of public riding stables. And you can keep up with everything at the Save Bramblewood campaign on GoFundMe. I'll link to that in the show notes. But you can also Google Save Bramblewood and it will take you to all sorts of news articles and updates so that you can see everything that we're facing and everything that we're building as we move forward. Currently, we're showcasing the stories of each horse in our resident herd, and we're offering opportunities for people to sponsor their move. Get to know us and help us spread the word. You've got to allow grief to change you, or else you'll be stuck suffering. I keep thinking about little baby Indigo, the kitten, when after her rabies vaccine, her tiny body trembled as it fought the very defenses that were trying to protect her. That's what our own resistance looks like. It isn't the grief itself that wrecks us. It's our body's fight against what it's asking to be integrated. That fight becomes inflation in our economy, cortisol in our bloodstream, and the erosion that happens from bracing too long against change. But when the unthinkable happens and the thing that you feared most arrives, on the other side of it, there will be calls to action. You walk through the shock and you notice that you're still here, that you're still breathing, and that you are, despite everything you feel inside, able to put one foot in front of the other. When my family, my animals, and my business suddenly found ourselves without a home, I didn't have the luxury of collapse. I had to move, act, and let grief push me forward instead of shutting me down. Later, Mom said to me, "This is your superpower. You shine when there are problems to solve." And I wouldn't have been aware of this gift if I didn't have someone walking beside me taking notes. And that's what grief can do for all of us. Reveals our strengths that we didn't know we had, open us to new ground, and point us toward hope. In the coming weeks, I'll be gathering a new group to walk this passage together. It's called From Grief to Hope, and it's for those of us ready to move through that threshold with support alongside someone who has lived it again and again. There will be both virtual and in-person options, rooted in the deep healing land of Lavender Hill after our move. However you choose to join me, from afar or face-to-face, the land itself will be a part of the circle, holding us steadily and reminding us of the way forward that is in step with our ancestors, with nature, and with ourselves. Love, Kim.